Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. I've been watching a lot of crime stories, and I've watched a lot of crime stories in the past. And this one broke my heart because it was senseless, and it's a telltale of what happens when you have a man in the middle of two women and it becomes toxic. Romeca Meeks was a beautiful young lady, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a cousin, and a friend. And her life was cut short one morning in September 2025 in the middle of the street. And in the center of it was a man. Now, I've stayed off this story because emotions were high on both sides. And I get it. Depending on which way you're looking at it, I can understand both sides of it. But when you're looking at it through the eyes of the law, it's only one side. So I can see the uproar of why everybody's upset and is crying for justice for Romeca. Some people might say self-defense, but when you look at it from the eyes of the law, the self-defense rule is different depending on the law in that state. From what I understand, Romeca was from Illinois and Holly was from Wisconsin. So when you look at it, two neighboring states, two similar laws, but they are different laws. Now, I am going to break down the laws of Wisconsin, and I'm going to break down the law of Illinois when it comes to duty to retreat and self-defense. So for Wisconsin self-defense laws, it says, no duty to retreat. You are not legally required to retreat from a dangerous situation before using self-defense. Use of deadly force. You may use deadly force if you have a reasonable belief that it is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm. And then there's the castle doctrine. This applies to your home, your car, your place of business. If someone forcibly enters or is in the process of entering, it is legally presumed that you can use deadly force to defend yourself. I'm not a person of law. I'm not an attorney, judge, police officer, any of that. But from what I understood from reading the Wisconsin self-defense laws, if you feel that you're in imminent danger, then you have the right to protect yourself. If you feel like your life is being threatened, then you have the right to defend yourself. So by Wisconsin law, if you feel like you're being threatened, even if you're in a fight and you get your behind whipped, you feel like your life is in danger, you have the right to defend yourself. And that includes the use of deadly force. Now we're going to look at the neighboring state, Illinois. Yes, Illinois has a duty to retreat in public places before using force, which means you must retreat if it is safe to do so before using deadly force in self-defense. This is because Illinois does not have a stand your ground law, although it does have a castle doctrine that protects you from this duty when you're inside your home, your vehicle, or your workplace. Duty to retreat in public. If you are faced with threat, you are legally required to attempt to safely retreat before you resort to force, including deadly force. Exemption for home and vehicle and workplace. Duty to retreat is lifted when you are inside your home, your vehicle, or workplace and are attacked. So yes, Holly was licensed to carry that gun. But as we see, the two states have very different laws when it comes to self-defense and duty to retreat. Holly may have thought that her home state laws also applied in Illinois, but it didn't. So it's not, from what I understand, this case is still under investigation. And when you're a licensed carrier, you can't just say self-defense and shoot somebody. You have to know the laws of the state that you're in. And when it says duty to retreat, she had that duty because just like she made it to that car to grab that weapon, she also could have gotten in that same car and call 911. You don't go and get your weapon and go back to the dangerous situation and shoot somebody and then cry self-defense. In the state of Illinois, if she made it to her car, she should have gotten in that car. So looking at it from the legal lens, Holly had the duty to retreat, and she had the opportunity to do so when she went to her car. From what I've heard and understand, Carlos had Romeca under control. Holly stated, "I'm going to shoot you." She then went to her car and got the firearm with the intentions on shooting her, when she could have easily retreated to safety inside of that vehicle. I can understand people's differences of opinions in this case, depending on what state they're from. Now in Georgia, we have a stand your ground law. So if they were in Georgia and it was self-defense, then I understand that. I can see the uproar and the people defending Holly. But the shooting did not happen in one of those states where you stand your ground and you have no duty to retreat. The shooting happened in a state where there was a duty to retreat, and she had that duty and she had the opportunity and she did not retreat. And I'm going to look at another law real quick before I end this video. And that's the federal law when it comes to carrying guns from state to state. Now, the Firearms Protection Act, or the FOPA, it protects the right of individuals to transport a firearm through states where they do not have a permit under specific conditions. Legal to possess. You must legally be allowed to possess the firearm in the state of origin and your final destination. The firearm and ammunition must not be readily accessible from the passenger compartment in a vehicle with a separate trunk. That means storing it there. For vehicles without a trunk, it must be in a locked container other than the glove compartment or console. Now, in the beginning, when I was hearing this story and I was listening to different people, I had the stance that Holly had the right to defend herself. And that's because I am a licensed carrier and I'm not going to be fighting with anybody. But this case has made me take a deeper look at the right to defend yourself in self-defense and the law. Because we feel like we have the right to defend ourselves just because we have a gun and we can shoot somebody and get away with it, there is a law, and the law has to be followed when you're a licensed carrier. You have to learn the laws of your state, and this case made me go look at the laws in my state, and I had to compare the laws to other states that I travel in, and I take it. Hopefully, I will never be in this position, but I advise everyone that's a licensed carrier, if you're traveling with your firearm, you have to learn the laws of that state, because firearm laws and self-defense laws are different from state to state. To show the difference in the self-defense laws from state to state, we're going to look at a case in Florida that was from back in the day. Marissa Alexander. Her husband was physically beating her, attacking her, threatening to kill her. She had a firearm. She fired a warning shot, went to court, and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The Marissa Alexander case involved a Florida woman who fired a warning shot during a domestic dispute with her estranged husband in 2010. She was initially sentenced to 20 years in prison under Florida's 1020 life law, but her conviction was overturned due to a jury instruction error. Alexander later accepted a plea deal in 2014, resulting in 3 years of time served and 2 years of house arrest with an ankle monitor. Her case drew national attention and sparked debate over Florida's Stand Your Ground law and the prosecution of domestic violence survivors. Key details in this case: the incident in August 2010, Alexander fired a warning shot into a wall after her husband attacked her. She stated that she was trying to escape and that he had threatened to kill her. So with that being said, every citizen does have the right to bear arms, and they do have the right to defend themselves. However, the person with the license to carry, it's their responsibility to know the laws of whatever state they enter before firing that firearm. So, with that being said, and looking at this case, I had to take a different stance, and I do believe that Romeca deserves justice. They were in an altercation, but Holly had the duty to retreat, and she chose not to. So, therefore, whatever happens, she just has to face the consequences because of that split decision and how she let her emotions take control of her actions. And because she was a licensed carrier, it was Holly's responsibility to learn the laws of Illinois before she pulled the trigger. This case made me look more in depth at the laws concerning licensed carry because I have one and I have a license to carry it. And I was one that said, I am not going to be tussling with these people. I'm not going to be fighting that I have a permit to carry. So I was going to defend myself. But it's not that simple when it comes to the law and defending yourself. And the laws of the state that you're brandishing that weapon, be sure to know them and study them so that you won't be caught worrying about whether you're going to spend time in prison or home with your loved ones because of a split decision. Well, that's all I have, guys. Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you like my content, you can buy me a coffee or super thanks. Links in the description. Also, feel free to leave a comment. But if the comments are disrespectful, they will be removed and you will be hidden from my channel.